We're going to move on to Rackla, Simon Ridgway. Delight to have you today, Simon. You kind of are the new kid on the block in that you're an earlier stage explorer, but very excited to hear what you have coming up this summer. You're on mute there, buddy.
The company Rackla is a late into the play, but I myself not. I lived in Dawson City back in the late 80s and explored the tombstones at that time. I mean, the first company I listed was called Tombstone Exploration, so I had some familiarity with the belt. And then when I saw Snowline's and Scott's amazing discovery last year, I took a look at where that discovery was, and I got interested in doing the research as the belt crosses into the Northwest Territories. So that's why I've got on this new hunting ground, because of the NWT has really not been explored for these gold systems in the intrusive as that belt crosses across the border. If you could just change slides now, please. Yeah, cautionary notes. I'll be making some forward-looking statements here. Next slide. So this is where we focus. As I looked at the Snowline's discovery, previously, from my knowledge of this belt way back when I lived in Dawson City, it seemed that the western side of the belt was gold rich, and the eastern side was gold poor and tungsten rich. But I think, once I saw Snowline's discovery, it brought out two things to me. One is that obviously there's gold on the eastern side of the belt based upon their results. And two, that these deposits can be quite discrete. Most of the deposits that were known before, sort of Fort Knox and the Eagle, and also Clear Creek, they had alluvial gold associated with them. But the discovery that Snowline didn't. It's a discrete, it looks to be a very large discovery, but quite discrete. There's no alluvial gold draining the creeks there. So I began to do the research, on the Northwest Territories, where the Canal Road cuts through the belt. And the more I looked into it, the more I saw that really nobody had done any kind of exploration for gold in that belt. They'd focused on tin and tungsten and lead and zinc for the most part. So I must have gone through 300 assessment reports, and really nobody had assayed for gold, hardly at all, in the Northwest Territories. Except one company. I found a report on work that was done in 2017 by Newmont. They did a huge leg survey in the Selwyn Basin all the way down the border on the Northwest Territory side of the border. And at the very southern end of that survey, where the belt that they're exploring hit the Tombstone Gold Belt, they got a very strong Bleg anomaly. And they focused in on that anomaly and did a lot of stream set sampling and got some very strong stream sets draining from 2 or 3 of what I call these border intrusives. So the big red blobs on the maps that you see, and that shows these intrusive bodies, there are 3 of them that straddle the border. They're kind of half in the Yukon and half in the Northwest Territories. So the anomalies that Newmont got identified like a 10-kilometer long stream set anomaly from the streams that were draining these 3 border intrusives. One of them was a Tombstone intrusive, one of them was a Mayo intrusive, one of them was a tungsten intrusive. But they all had the same, that's the names that the belt is given as they move further east. The discoveries of the Mactung and the Cantung back in the 60s led to everybody looking for tin and tungsten in the belt as it crossed into the Northwest Territories. Newmont's results showed that, in my opinion, they made a discovery with that Bleg survey and the stream sediment survey. They identified a 10-kilometer long gold anomalous streams draining from 3 border intrusives. They then followed that in with a detailed soil survey, but they focused on the sediments 100%. So all of the work they did was on the sedimentary rock. So, a 10-kilometer long by 5-kilometer wide soil survey that identified 2 or 3 strongly anomalous areas, but right on the edges of the intrusive. So as I began to dig into the data, all of the results that Newmont got were, gold bismuth telluride. So they were looking for these Carlin style systems. That's why they're focused on the sediments, but they were identifying, these intrusive related systems. If you go to the next slide, I'll show you what the discovery I think they made. They just didn't drill it. So this is an area, a target they call the radial. They identified like a 1 kilometer wide soil and talus geochem anomaly across a valley, and that stretched for about, towards us and away from us, about 700-meter wide, about a kilometer long. And in that target, they identified where they got in the sediments, they got 30 meters of 17 grams in like a skarn zone. So they put in 5 vertical holes into again, testing the sediments. 2 of those holes went into the intrusive, and the only gold they got in the drill holes basically was in the intrusive rocks themselves. So when the results came in, the only gold numbers they got in the drilling was in the intrusives. Hole 2 went through 2 meters of overburden and then about 10 meters of intrusive rock, and the anomalous gold was in the intrusive rock, not in the overburden. So I think Newmont made the discovery for us. We just got to drill it. So we'll have a drill on site here in the first week of July. We'll start drilling then. We're putting in a camp as we speak. The road just opened. And we have a lot of other targets in the area. As I said, I've gone through hundreds of the assessment reports that were done in the Northwest Territories and identified many of the areas where even though no sampling was done for gold, the descriptions of the intrusives that the geologists worked on, they talked about stockworking, they talked about 10 to 15 meter wide veins that had pyrite in, but none of them assayed for gold. So we've got about 60,000 hectares, some of it in the Yukon Territory, but most of it in the Northwest Territories. We permitted to drill here on the Astro target, also on the 2 other intrusives with anomalous sediments that Newmont identified, the Hit and the Sarah. So I'm very excited to get the rig on this and start drilling it. I think that, as I said, I think Newmont made the discovery for us. They just failed to drill it. We just need to find the size of the deposit, the grade of it, whether it's economic, how big it can be. That's
all right.
The pitch.
No, that's a very good summary. So you really do have a drill story here. You've got all your permits, correct? And
we got all the permits. We got the drill. The drill's going to be on site first week of July. We also continue, we're doing a lot of other regional work, airborne geophysics. We got LiDAR. I don't know how much LiDAR would help, but it's something I've used a lot in Latin America. So we'll use that to try and identify some structure. And we got a 20-man camp going in. We've got lots of young geos, because I think as Snowline showed, you got to walk these intrusives. And I don't think, certainly in the Northwest Territories, many of them have been prospected at all.
Yeah. Yes.
Walking up those boring gray intrusives is not something that most field geos want to do until you see this kind of discovery that Snowline made.
Well, that's a good way to put it. And look, for people, I know that this is a very short segment. You don't have much time to talk about those, but for people interested in Rackla, I would encourage you to go to their website, look at their presentation and more details about some of the other targets. Bit earlier stage, that some of these things have to be advanced with soil sampling and other, maybe geophysical techniques and stuff before they're drill ready.
Definitely.
But you have
boots on the ground. Most importantly, boots on the ground.
Yeah. Very
RAK trades on the TSX, symbol is RAK. We've got a market cap of about 15 million, 25-cent share price. We got about 4. We financed for this first round drill program. So
awesome. All right. Well, very exciting story on yet another very, very large scale target. That's a pretty astonishing scale that you're looking at there, a couple of kilometers across. Now, you can't call this the Valley target, Simon. I'm sorry.
No. I got. I was going to call it like the double LE and change the title a little bit, but my in-house people told me it was tacky.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Simon. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Quinten.